Hey everybody and welcome. I was gonna take this time to answer a couple of the questions that I got on Instagram right off the bat. I just wanted to say thank you for submitting those and for asking, because it kind of helped me realize that people are actually interested in hearing about this stuff. So thank you for sending those in if you did. And then I thought that these first two questions that I'm going to answer will sort of help you guys get to know me a little bit better too. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to do that. So the first question was, how did you get started in photography? And this pretty much takes me back to like half my life ago. I'm 26 now, and I think I picked up a camera for the first time when I was 13. Maybe before that for fun, but it really started when I was around 13. It was the summer before I went to high school. So 2006, 2006. Anyways, so I think like as I was a kid growing up, I remember I really wanted to direct movies, and I had this little video camera that I got for Christmas one year, and I'd try to get my friends to like be in movies with me, and no one ever, I guess, took it seriously because we were 8 and 9. And I don't think I really understood the fact that like you're not gonna make a movie that goes in a movie theater on a camcorder. But I had fun anyways. It was one of those things where I always kind of had it like recording and going on, and I really need to actually go back and find those videos because I feel like it'd be super embarrassing but also super funny. But anyways, as I got older, I remember it was the end of my 8th grade year. I did a project, a PowerPoint presentation for my social studies class, and afterwards my dad just thought that the project itself was really cool. I sort of styled the slides after like a newspaper. It was all black and white, and it was about Amelia Earhart. And I remember he got me a Canon AE1. It's a 35mm film camera, and he basically taught me how to shoot. And I just thought it was the coolest thing, like learning how to develop your own film. That was kind of where I started. So that summer I went to an art camp. Basically we shot a couple rolls of film, and they developed the film for us. So they processed our film, but then we got to go into the darkroom and make like prints on an enlarger. And it was like a really cool experience, and I was super young, so it was cool to sort of learn what had already sort of become a lost art that early on, because I think it gave me a much more like greater appreciation for the art itself. But anyways, I remember the very first place that I shot, I went with my dad and some neighborhood friends to Oakland Cemetery downtown, and we lived sort of just outside of Atlanta at this point, so going downtown itself was cool. But we shot a roll of film in Oakland Cemetery, and that was what I used to make prints once I went to that camp. Anyways, so once I got to high school, I took photography as an elective for 3 of my 4 years. The first 2 years were film photography classes where we were in the darkroom. We were learning how to make, I think we started with like photograms and then did a pinhole camera project, and then we sort of went on to shoot some portraits. So we'd go out during class with like our other classmates, and we'd take pictures of each other, and then we actually learned how to process our film. And this was all black and white. I think the processing for color is a little bit more complicated, so we stuck exclusively to black and white. And then there was one project we did on slide film, which we sent to a lab to have processed for us. But anyways, that was sort of my foundation. And then my junior year, I did not take any photography classes. Hey kitty. I at that point had sort of started shooting some digital stuff, nothing crazy. I got a point and shoot, like a little bit of an elevated point and shoot camera, and I took photos at concerts that I went to, because I was really into like going to concerts and listening to music and stuff at that point, and still am. But basically, I remember my sophomore year of high school, I took photos of a band at a concert, and this was back in like the MySpace days when that was sort of our maybe primary method of communication. outside of like instant messenger. So I remember I sent some photos that I had taken of a band to them on on MySpace, and was like, hey, like I took these photos of you, like here you go, like just kind of, hey, I did this, have them. And a couple days later I got online and got an instant message, a MySpace comment, a MySpace message, like basically just all these different messages from the manager of this band. And they were like, hey, we really want to use this picture in Alternative Press magazine. Can you send us a high res? And I was like, what? And I just remember like dropping everything I was doing, and I literally ran laps around my house like squealing. Like at that point in time, AP was my absolute favorite magazine, and like all the bands that I loved were featured in there all the time. So getting my work published in that magazine when I was 15 was like unreal. I was 15 or 16. But anyways, that was sort of when I realized, okay, like this is something I want to do. This is something that I can do. And at the time, like I just gave these photos away for free. Like it wasn't even like a money thing for me. It was just something I loved doing so much. And I was like, I'll do whatever it takes to sort of make this happen. And then fast forward to senior year, I started doing more portrait work and really loved that. I'd never really done a lot of that before, and I think that's kind of when things started to click for me. And then I was like pretty destined on going to art school. I thought I wanted to go to SCAD, and it just didn't make sense for me to go to like a private, I guess, is SCAD private? I don't know. Anyways, it's expensive to go to SCAD, and it just didn't make sense for me to do that. So I ended up going to Georgia State for college and started as an art major, got into sort of my art program and hated it, did not like it at all. So that actually resulted in a business degree, and I actually did not touch a camera for all 4 years of college. Like, did not take a single photo. It fell off my radar, I think, around the time that, you know, college started, and I was in a sorority, and just there was a lot going on and a lot of sort of figuring out really what I wanted to do. And photography at that time just like wasn't on my radar at all. It wasn't something that I thought that I could actually make a career out of. So after college, I think somewhere in my junior or senior year, I decided that I was really interested in wedding planning. I got my degree in hospitality, which a lot of sort of what we were learning in school was about hotels and restaurants, but there was sort of an event coordination and logistics side to it. And I really enjoyed that, and I sort of got like enamored with weddings. And it was when Pinterest was sort of exploding, and it was just very like, everything was pretty and everything like, you know, looked like it was cut out of a magazine. And so that's kind of, I think, how I got interested in weddings to begin with. But after I graduated from college, I had a job that I didn't like, and knew that it wasn't going to be my career. And I was trying to decide at that point if I was going to go back to school, or, you know, what I was going to do to like put myself in a position where I was happy. Around that time, I started interning for a wedding coordinator while I was going to grad school for professional writing. And from being at weddings all the time, I sort of started to pay attention to the photographers, and I was like, oh wow, like I miss that, I really do. And when I was younger, I had never really thought that wedding photography wasn't like a thing to me, I guess. I mean, I knew it existed, but it wasn't like, oh, maybe I can do that and that's how I like can make a career out of photography. But it was around that time when I was like, okay, this is like a real job and people actually do this for a living. So I got a new camera. I started shooting family photos, seniors, graduation photos, stuff like that. And I was like, okay, yeah, I still love doing this, and I still, you know, think that I could make this work. And after a while, I started working for an advertising agency after I stopped working for the coordinator, and was there for 2 years. And just during that time, I started building up my business. I was taking literally any shoot that I could get, and eventually someone hired me to shoot their wedding. And that sort of sounds like too good to be true, and I know I kind of know that. But really, you know, it was someone took a chance on me. They were looking for, you know, someone who was affordable and still talented, and I think that I kind of fit that bubble perfectly at the time. And that's when I really decided, okay, this is what I want to do for sure. Like, I know it, and I'm gonna do whatever it takes to make this my full-time job. So that's kind of my background in photography. It really was a hobby for a while until it wasn't anymore, and I think being able to kind of come full circle in my life, and you know, now my career is literally what I dreamed of doing when I was 13, I think is really, really cool to say. So yeah, that's really how I got started. It was just, you know, making it a point to pick up my camera and, you know, have my friends model for me and work with families who, you know, wanted family portraits but were on a, you know, smaller budget, and not being scared to try something new for fear of disappointing a potential client, because I think we were all on the same page. Like, they knew I was just starting out, and I knew that I might not want to work with families all the time, or I might not want to do baby portraits or whatever it was that I was shooting, but that I needed that experience of directing people and being behind the camera in order to start doing really what I wanted. Another question that I got was, what was the final straw that gave me the courage to just run my business full-time? And that's a tough one, because I think it was a lot of things. For starters, I was miserable at a desk job. You know, I woke up every morning and I was like, oh, do I really need this? Like, do I really need this job, or can I just stay home today and not go? So that alone just really starts to wear on you. And if we're gonna be doing something for 40 hours a week or more, depending on what you do, you've got to love it, and you've got to have like your heart and soul into it, or else you're going to be miserable. And that sort of unhappiness that maybe is in your career can start to manifest itself in other ways in your life, and that's kind of what it was doing to me. Like, it was wearing on me in every way. But one thing I noticed is that when I was at weddings, it never felt like work. I never felt like, oh, I have to go to this wedding today, wish I didn't have to go, too bad I can't call in sick. Like, that was never how I felt about it. And so I knew that that's, you know, what I wanted to do. And I think too, I'm a huge believer in the law of attraction, and it sounds cheesy, but I started reading some books about it and doing these like meditation exercises at night, and that I think just put a huge shift in my mindset to where it wasn't like this lofty goal that was super far away and I was like, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to stay here until I'm ready. Like, no, it was, I'm making this happen right now and nobody's gonna stop me. So those two things really helped me, and I've got a number of book recommendations that I think may help other people, not even just photography, but any type of business ownership. So yeah, it wasn't like one thing just clicked. It was a bit of a process, and I did work at this job for 2 years, and there were times while I was there where I was like, you know what, maybe I should put photography on the back burner, and maybe I should, you know, focus on making this job a career and moving up here. But the more that I like said that in my head, the worse it sounded to me. And I was like, no, like, you're not gonna quit just because it's hard, or because it's taking it longer, or it's taking you longer than you thought it would. Because in reality, 2 years to build up a business and take it full-time is not long at all. Some people work for years and years to make that happen, and I think just having patience too is huge. But really believing that you can do it is the first step to making anything happen for yourself. And it definitely was scary. I was like shaking, like seriously thought I was gonna throw up when I was going in to tell my boss that I was leaving. And I was like, am I really doing this? Am I really doing this? Like, am I ready? I don't know. And the thing is, like, you're never gonna know if you're ready or not, because when you own a business, like, nothing is guaranteed. And that's not to say that it's not worth it, because it totally is. Because when you're in charge of yourself and when you're the one running things, there's no cap on what you can do and what you can make. But there is nice knowing that like every month is going to be the same. Like, you're still going to get that paycheck every 2 weeks or twice a month or however much. So when you're an entrepreneur, that's not necessarily the case. Like, some months I could make, 10 times as much as I made the next month. It really just depends. I had convinced myself, and I had booked enough business to know that, like, I'm gonna be fine. Like, I set myself up to be in a good spot financially, to make sure like, okay, worst case scenario, like if I don't book another shoot for the rest of the year, like I still have 6 months worth of living just in case, you know? So whatever it takes to have that security for you, like start setting that up now and make those plans now so that eventually you can be ready when the time comes. Another thing too that helped was setting like attainable goals, not necessarily like goals that are easy to do, but goals that are measurable. So like I put an expiration date on my time at my job, and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to be here past January 1st. And I had said that to myself, and I think I ended up giving my notice like in the first or second week of January. Like it was not long after the holidays happened. So I wasn't too far off of that, but like setting a date or setting an income goal, like once you make X number of dollars in your business, then you can leave your job, then you can do that full time. So just not leaving it up to when I'm ready, because who knows when you're ready, but setting, you know, measurable and attainable goals to sort of make that happen, I think was a huge help for me. So yeah, that's just sort of a little intro to what I'm doing now, and I know that these have the potential to turn into like huge rambling sessions, but I could talk about this stuff all day. Like I love when people ask me like, how did you do it? How did you make that happen? And like, to be honest, I'm not doing everything right now. I have a ton of clients that I love and love being at weddings, and I love the work that I do with other people as well, like my non-wedding work. But like my office hours are kind of a mess. Like my system for making a to-do list and keeping track of my like work that I do every day, like it's a mess. And it's, you know, one of those things that in my first year I really wanted to focus on my clients and my work, and then I think next year my focus is going to shift into like running a business the right way. So that's kind of just where I'm at now. And I think like everybody is different. There's not one right way to do it. There's not, I mean, I'm sure there's wrong ways to do it, but it's not like a black and white answer. Like it's what works for you and what makes, you know, what makes your business run well, different for every single person. All right, well, thank you guys if you're still here for listening to this whole spiel. If you have any like follow-up questions to any of these things, let me know and I will answer them. But thanks for coming. Bye.